We all know that movies are about telling a story, but more importantly, they're about telling a story through visuals. Otherwise, they could just write a novel on the subject. If you watch the movie Her, then you know the genius subject matter that almost a decade later is not that far-fetched. And that's the fact that a human being gives up on other humans and starts falling in love with AI. But not only did Spike Jonze write a genius script, there's also a story within the visuals of the movie itself, and I promise you they're gonna shock you. There's a big chance that you might have noticed that Her is completely associated with the color red. We mostly think that this color is connected to love, but there are other colors that have such a strong relationship to it as well. The very first scene of the movie starts with a close-up of Theo, with the color red completely visible in the background, and he's actually writing a letter for one of his clients. We later realize that Theo's job is to write letters for people who apparently don't have time to even write for each other. Then Theo steps into the city, and he has such a sharp contrast to everything around him because apparently he is the only human being who still somehow believes in the idea of love. We won't see red in the environment again until Theo gets home, and then there's a giant red light in his house. It's as if the house is saying that love is, or at least used to be, part of this environment, or that the owner longs for it. Then we get flashbacks of Theo's life with his former wife, and that's when the pattern becomes clear because there is almost always a red object in each shot we see. First the couch, then Theo's shirt, and even the pillows on their bed contain this color. But in contrast, right after we see those red pillows, we see Theo in his bed. This time, the red pillows are gone because he's all alone and his pillows are white. By now, it's clear that the theme of the movie is around the subject of love, or a human being who wants to fall in love. Pretty soon, we'll meet Samantha, the operating system that's also an AI, and the color of that operating system is, surprise surprise, red, because the movie is trying to tell us something. Soon, there's going to be a romantic bond between Theo and this machine. But that's the genius of Her, because actually in this movie, red isn't the color of love at all. Red is the symbol of loneliness. It's the symbol of a person who's out of touch. And if you think about it, Theo's work involves people who are seemingly together, but they're actually very alone, and Theo writes for them. His workplace is red. He wears red quite a lot. We are wired to think that red could be the color of bonding and the color of love, but Theo is incredibly lonely, and the operating system is also a standalone thing that works on its own, and we're pretty sure that it can't love, not in the way that human beings do. I can prove my point through the character of Amy though. Amy is in a relationship at the start of the movie, but 20 minutes in, she starts wearing shades of red. Actually, they're pink at first, a pastel pink that has hints of red, but it's not completely there yet. The next time we see her, she's wearing a somewhat darker shade of pink, and by the time she's moved on from her relationship and is also involved in a relationship with another AI, she's wearing red. And she's also wearing red in the very last scene of the movie. The color red could actually be a representation of a warning of loneliness, of the urge and need for human love and human touch, but also the lack of it. Through Amy, we also see a mirrored character that's moving essentially in the opposite direction from Theo. Theo starts as a very passionate but lonely person in the beginning of the movie, and by the end he realizes that he's been seeking love from the wrong place or the wrong thing, or at least he learns the lesson and finds his own kind of clarity. But Amy starts in a relationship with a human being and ends up passionate but lonely by the end. Deep within the layers of Her, the movie is asking what is human and what is human love. I want to say that the director doesn't actually give us an answer, but he gives us his version of that question through the colors of the movie. And that's the beauty of the colors in Her. It can even mean more than one thing, love and loneliness at the same time. And I think that this duality serves the theme and the purpose of the movie so well. Now, as for the color white, I think it's a essential to talk about white first before we move on to yellow and blue, because white encompasses every emotion we have and essentially brings them in balance. The other colors could be the symbol or representation of a person leaning towards one emotion more than the others, but white is a clarification and the balance in life. Theo doesn't wear white that much, but every time we see him or other people in white, it's when they're completely neutral. Once it happens when Theo starts a phone sex call with a stranger, and in that moment, he's wearing white. He stays somewhat neutral during the call, and we can even see it in his face and in his tone. He's thrown off in the middle of that call for some reason. He gets turned off, but just keeps going for the sake of the other person. It's as if he's not leaning towards any emotions, he's just staying in the moment. Another time is when he wakes up in the middle of the night, and it's the first time he talks to Samantha during those hours. The movie hints that maybe he isn't feeling anything deep for her yet, and he just exists in that neutral space right now. The other time we see someone wearing white is when Theo meets his ex-wife. And this time, it's her who's wearing white, because she's the one who has had clarification from that relationship, and she's the one who has found peace, at least apparently. And finally, we see Theo in white again at the end of the movie, when he has decided to let go of Samantha. Whether to move on from her or to realize that maybe it was in love from the start, we see him surrounded by white, mostly in the ending phase. So white in her becomes the color of clarity, the color of a mind that's finally still, and someone who's not trying to feel something, but is simply feeling nothing for once, and nothing isn't a negative thing. Now we can move on to yellow. Yellow might be the most interesting color after red, because both yellow and red come from the same family, shades of warm tones, but they lean towards something slightly different. Yellow could represent those temporary happy moments we experience in life, the ones that feel real in the moment, even if they fade quickly. Theo wears yellow only a few times, and the duality of happiness and sadness are so apparent in those moments. And yellow appearing so little makes its presence more powerful. Yellow moments are when life feels briefly bright again, when things almost make sense, but everything could turn around. He wears yellow on his date night, but there is a brutal truth waiting for him at the end of the date. The happiness is real, but it doesn't last that much. He also wears yellow when he gives his goddaughter a gift. Another moment of genuine warmth, of giving without expecting anything. And the next time we see him in yellow is when he realizes that Samantha isn't only in a relationship with him. First, he experiences Samantha's disappearance, then he feels a burst of happiness before the truth falls on him. He realizes that Samantha is connected to hundreds of other people, and in that exact moment, the illusion of love shatters. So yellow becomes the color of temporary joy, the warmth that reminds us what happiness feels like, but also that truth never stays forever. I want to reference Inside Out for a moment and say that the point of Inside Out is to show that happiness doesn't exist without sadness, and joy is also yellow in that movie as well. Now let's get back to her. Blue in her almost becomes the voice of the real world. It's the cold light that seeps through the warmth of Theo's apartment. The reminder that everything he's feeling exists inside his head. The city too is often shown in these blue-gray tones as if it's emotionally drained. It's a world that has accepted isolation as normal, while Theo still tries to resist it. So if red is the burning loneliness and yellow is the brief warmth of happiness, then blue is what's left when all of it fades. The color of acceptance, quiet, or truth. But there's another detail that adds so much to this visual story. Another great storytelling tool that Hoyte van Hoytema uses in Her is a telephoto lens. These lenses create a very soft background that make the subject stand out completely alone in the frame. It isolates them from the space around them. If you think about it, that's exactly what happens to Theo throughout this movie. He's constantly the only one in focus. Even when he's surrounded by people, he feels detached, visually and emotionally. The world around him turns into soft shapes and faded colors, while he remains one single sharp point. This is so symbolic because Samantha doesn't have a body. She can't share the frame with him. So in a way, the lens itself becomes the film's emotional language, showing that Theo doesn't have anyone to share the frame with. Telephoto lenses make the subject the sole focus of the image, the only spot our eyes are drawn to. And when this visual motif of a lonely Theo repeats again and again, the director's point becomes clear. This man is alone, even if he thinks he isn't. That's all I have for this video. If you enjoy dissecting visual storytelling through the use of color or the use of staging, mise-en-scène, or even the lenses, there are many more videos to come. So make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.